contaminate, and sin contaminates and consumes us. God intervenes. 2 Samuel 12, I'm going to read a couple of them and then jump to the back. So the Lord sent Nathan. Somebody say Nathan. This is interesting because God doesn't just send you somebody, He sends you someone. He sends Nathan, a prophet. A prophet who knows all. And he comes up to David and he says, watch what he says. He says to tell David a story. I love it. He tells him a story. Watch. He says, there were two men in a certain town. One was rich, one was poor. The rich man owned a great many sheep and cattle. Verse 3. The poor man owned nothing but a little lamb that he had bought. He raised that little lamb and it grew up with his children. It ate from the man's own plate and drank from his cup. He cuddled it in his arms like a baby daughter. Verse 4, one day a guest arrived at the home of the rich man, but instead of killing an animal from his own flock or herd, he took the poor man's lamb and killed it and prepared it for his guest. Notice, he's giving it this illustration and David's like, oh, I like the story. David likes the story. He's like, I like it. Where are you going with this story, Prophet Nathan? Well, watch what happens in verse 5. David was furious. He says, as surely as the Lord lives. What I'm telling you, you think you're under covenant, but you're living something else. As surely as the Lord lives, he vowed, any man who would do such a thing deserves to die. See, that's the problem with us. When we are caught in sin, so stuck, we are easily able to judge others when they have their sin, but don't even see the log in our own eyes. I promise you. Oh, we're quick to say you're wrong. We're quick to say you're nasty. We're quick to say you're perverted. We're quick to say, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing this. And you need to get a church. And you need to get connected when you are more disconnected than Time Warner. Don't be pointing and don't be showing and don't be judging and don't be criticizing and don't be acting when you have dirty laundry yourself. Don't do it, church, because God will call you out. So watch what he says. He says, any man that would do such a thing deserves to die. Look what he says in verse 6. He must repay 4 lambs to the poor man for the one he stole for having no pity. Then Nathan said to David, verse 7, you are that man. Yeah. I'm sure there was a disco playing like, David's all fired. Yeah, that's what I would do. And he would pay this to that and pay the fine and send him to jail and cut his head off. And Nathan says, I'm talking about you, son. Are you not hearing what I'm saying? Nathan went there as a prophet. He didn't go there as a friend. Oh, church, you didn't hear what I just said. You hear what I just said? I said Nathan went in there as a prophet messenger. He didn't go in there as a Facebook friend. I'm trying to tell you that sometimes you need godly people in your life to tell you that you're wrong. Nathan wasn't scared about, oh, I'm going to lose about the friend. He might throw me out of the palace. All that. When God speaks, you better listen. You better listen. And if you don't like what I've got to say, that's all right. You were never my friend in the first place. But the reason why I'm telling you is because I love you. And oh God, church, tell me. Choose your friend wisely. Choose your friend wisely. I don't know. I mean, he's having an affair with her, but I don't know what I would do. And would I tell him? Would I not? Seriously, church, wake up. Yeah. Stop harboring. Stop covering. For if you do that, you are just as guilty as they are. We get so afraid, but he's been my friend since high school, and I'm afraid to tell him. What if it ruins the relationship? Let it ruin the relationship. If it's going to save someone's soul for salvation, it's greater than friendship. Turn to your neighbor and say, ouch. Turn to your neighbor and say, Pika. Yeah. Can I keep going? Watch. Then Nathan said to David, verse 7, you are that man, the Lord of God Israel says, I anointed you. Now watch what God calls him out. He says, look what I did for you. He says, I anointed you the king of Israel and saved you from the power of Saul. Verse 8, I gave you your master's house and his wives and the kingdoms of Israel and Judah. And if it had not been enough, I would have given you much, much more. Verse 9. Why then have you despised the word of the Lord and done this horrible deed? For you have murdered Uriah. Notice how he knew. You have murdered Uriah the Hittite with the sword of the Ammonites and stolen his wife. Are you ready? Verse 10 will shake you. Verse 10 says, from this time on, your family will live by the sword because you have despised me by taking Uriah's wife to be your own. Verse 11, this is what the Lord says. Because of what you have done, I will cause your own household to rebel against you. You're not hearing what I'm saying, church. You're not hearing what I'm saying. I will cause your own household to rebel against you. I will give your wives to another man before your very eyes, and I will go to bed with them in public and in public view. And watch what it says, verse 12. You did it secretly, but I will make this happen to you openly in the sight of all Israel. You don't mess with God. You don't mess with God. But maybe you didn't catch what I just said. I said, in verse 11, because of that, I will cause your household to rebel against you. What is that talking about? It's talking about rebellion. It's talking about division. Ask yourself, how is your house right now? If you're struggling with division, if you're struggling with opposing parties, you don't seem to all be in the same track. What hidden sin may be there? I'm telling you, this is a great sermon. I know. Half the people might show up next week. I don't care. You need to hear this because if you want restoration, you need to get the rust out. You need to get the rust out. Stop. You know, we have so much junk in our home and what if we breathe it? Just pray and nobody will know. Shh. You walk into the house, oh my God, it smells like jasmine lilies. And that's what we do so well. We cover up our sin and we spray our closets and we spray our bathrooms and we spray our home and we even spray ourselves. Can I go deeper? Must I remind you of the woman who was a prostitute who washed Jesus' feet with the most expensive perfume? People asked, why does she use the most expensive perfume? How could she use a 10,000 bottle of Chanel on his feet? Some of you are saying, why do you say $10,000? Because that's about the value of what she had. Perfume. Why would this woman carry such an expensive bottle of perfume? To cover up her sexual sin. And that's what we try to do. We starch up our shirts and pleat our pants and clean our shoes, but the house is falling apart. We need to pray together because a family that prays together stays together. Yeah, but a family that hides stuff and doesn't talk about the sin and tries to hide it up, and we got man not leaving the house and we got a woman doing whatever, I'm talking, prayer's not going to help you. I'm sorry, prayer's not going to help you. Newsflash. Restoration. I told you this last week. You will not have a 1969 Mustang full of rust. You can't pray to restore that. You got to get sweat. You got to get dirty. You got to roll up the sleeve. You got to rub and buff and scrape and rough and wash and dry and clean, and then you will see the restoration. I told you last week, and I'll tell you all year, restoration doesn't begin with God. It begins with you, and it ends with God. But, somebody say but. If we humble ourselves. You see, here's the thing. You serve a God that is jealous. You serve a God that wants your undivided attention. He doesn't want you to worship any other gods before him. He says, I am your creator. All I want is your worship. All I want is your obedience. I don't need your sacrifice. I need your obedience. And as rough and tough and hard as that God that we preach, he's also tender, loving, and merciful. And he says, yeah, I'm taking your son, but I can restore you. Watch. Verse 13. Then David confessed to Nathan. What do you do? Everything starts with confession, people. Everything starts with confession. I'm not saying we're going to put it on Facebook. Don't be dumb. I'm saying get with the people that love you. Get with the people that trust you. And you trust and trust you. And I need to share something with you. Be free from that. Watch. David confessed to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. Nathan replied, yes, but the Lord has forgiven you. And you won't die for this sin. You see, as bad as we get and as harmful as some of you, God still forgives us if we humble ourselves. Watch. 14. But, nevertheless, because you have shown utter contempt for the Lord by doing this, your child will die. Wait a minute. Why? Why would God take it out on the child? The one that committed the sin was the father. Oh gosh, I wish I could preach already next week, sir. The wrath, the connection to pride, that God can't just do this because we won't learn our lesson. You see, that's the problem with parenting today. Don't do it again. Don't do it again. Don't do it again. Kid comes home. I know, Mom, I won't do it again. Honey, I need you to be home by 12. I'll be back at 2. Oh, okay. We wonder why we have division when there's disorder in the house. You know why? Because we're afraid of tough love. I'll tell you right now, when I was threatening my dad, I'm on the pulpit. 16 years old, hormonally wired, ready to make a life in Houston. And I said, Dad, you know what? I'm really tired of all this nonsense. My dad said, I'm really fed up. I'm going to move to Houston. He said, when do you leave? No, Dad, really. I'm going to leave. Okay? Have a great trip. We'll be praying for you. I mean it. I'm leaving. If there's one thing I learned from my parents, it's tough love. That when I stole a little piece of gum from the local supermarket, look, it haunts me today. Double bubble gum. Walk in the local supermarket and I see it and I get it and I put it in my pocket. See, I had a gum addiction. I still do. And I'm blowing this gum and my mom says, where'd you get that gum? Jesus gave it to me? She's like, look at me, boy. Back in the day when mothers and fathers had authority. Fine. She didn't have to yell. See, when there's authority, you don't have to scream, parents. You just say how it's done and follow through the consequences, and if they don't like it, kick their ass out of the house. Do whatever you gotta do. It's called tough love. And yes, I said that. And I'll never forget, I said, Mom, you did that to the devil. Oh, you stole it. I'll go return it. Nonsense, I'm calling the cops. I swear to God I was getting the death penalty. She called the cops on me for a 3-cent gum. Ask me if I ever stole again. You learn your lesson at the age of 7. You learn your lesson at the age of 15 when we have these kids trying to rebel and trying to do all that. Let them do what they gotta do. Put them in God's hand and say, God, I love them, but I love you more. And I